The hunt for the world's most dangerous hackers. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
This is the story of the hunt for the world's most dangerous hackers.
Prologue. The Bears. Once upon a time, there were 5 bears. They all lived in Russia. Each one was different in the things they liked and in the things they did. But they shared one important trait.
They were bears?
They were all seriously dangerous. There was the fancy bear, elegant, agile, and cunning. Then came the lazy bear, who liked nothing more than making himself comfortable in other people's homes, just to lie in wait.
Okay.
The berserker bear was obsessed with energy, all kinds of energy, and all the things it could be used for. The voodoo bear had mastered an entire arsenal of dark arts. And last, but not least, the toxic bear. Definitely not one to mess with. They were all fearless fighters. Nasty creatures that sent shivers down the world's spine. Even in the most distant lands, people knew of them and feared them.
Go on.
But there's one more thing all these bears had in common. Their metaphors, nicknames.
For special units of Russian intelligence services. These units are made up of hackers.
That was a slick transition. Hey, you gotta admit, in terms of video editing, that was a very slick transition.
These bears had in common. Their metaphors, nicknames.
The metaphors and nicknames, and it's the double voice, and then it recedes back into them.
Special units of Russian intelligence services. These units are made up of hackers, some of the most dangerous in the world. They each have different objectives: to spy, to expose, to wreak havoc. But they're not just a threat to computers or networks. They're a threat to Western democracies. They're tools of destabilization, of psychological warfare, of political manipulation. They've already made it into the German parliament, into the email inboxes of the country's elected officials. They threw their full weight behind Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. They travel the world, working in the interest of Vladimir Putin's regime. And they've played a key role for years in Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. This documentary reveals who these hackers are, how they operate, and how we can protect ourselves from them.
This animation is clean. I'm not gonna lie, this is insane. And having it like one connected computer as the malware, or like their Trojans jumping in from system to system, is just, bro, it's nefarious. And you have the surveillance state. Oh, this is... The thing is, the terrifying thing is, all of this is real. All of this is based on like genuine real world events. So this is just nice.
This documentary is largely based on a fantastic German-speaking podcast, Der Mann in Merkel's Rechner, by German investigative journalists Hakan Tanriverdi and Florian Fada. Link is in the description.
Okay.
Chapter 1. The Email.
This story begins with that little line above the E, and with Claudia Height. She was working in Berlin back then as an assistant to a member of the Bundestag, the German national parliament. Her office is beautiful, in the center of Berlin. It's May 8th, 2015, a warm Friday in spring.
It's not long ago, it's about 9 years ago. It's like 10 years ago now, but it's not that long ago.
The weekend is just around the corner.
Right?
She's trying to write an email to a colleague named Renee. The The accent aigu doesn't work. Strange. She tries all the usual, opening and closing Word, rebooting her PC. Nothing fixes the issue. The Bundestag has its own internal service hotline for that kind of thing, 117. She tells the IT guys that she thinks her PC got infected with some kind of malware, perhaps a Trojan. But they don't take her seriously.
Where did that come from? Wait, hold on. So just because you couldn't use the E, the immediate suspicion is we're hacked. It's a Trojan. I think that's okay. I mean, it might be a good sign. Like, hey, you're probably infected. You need to go and get some help. But that being said, most people I've ever met, like in most professional settings, if your accents and your E doesn't really work properly, they just ignore it and they just keep going. That's unusual. Okay.
At this point, no one realizes how serious the situation really is. There really was a Trojan on Claudia's computer. She'd been hacked. But it wasn't just her device. While she's still on the phone with 117, hackers are already deep inside the Bundestag systems. They're working on behalf of the Russian Military Intelligence Agency, the GRU. Putin's bears are running wild, right through the very heart of Germany's political system. If all this happened today, Claudia could have...
We're going to jump out for that, yeah.
8 days earlier, on April 30th, 2015, dozens of MPs and their staffs received an email. It looked official, as if it came from the United Nations. The subject line referenced Ukraine and its economic situation. It's just a year after the annexation of Crimea, Russia's first military incursion into Ukraine.
The military operation is now underway in eastern Ukraine.
The capital, Kyiv, and other Ukrainian cities have been hit by air and missile strikes over the past several hours.
The situation in Ukraine was already a red-hot political issue. You had to stay informed, and if the UN sent something around, Claudia Heidt and many others clicked. That single click was enough. Malware installed itself quietly in the background. No pop-ups, no warnings. The infection was silent, and from that moment on, the hackers had access. Their objective was clear: gain administrator rights. With those, they'd have the digital equivalent of master keys, access to everything, the power to change anything.
I apologize. This is a documentary, but that sound design is wow.
Their objective was clear: gain administrator rights. With those, they'd have the digital equivalent of master keys, access to...
That's sick. But at the same time, it's always one of those things where in emails, like whenever you get a link, typically, I think you do have to usually typically, I don't know how it works in government agencies, but I would presume that you'd have like a way of like filtering out so that even before you have a procedure for like clicking this, you copy this link, put it into like the link checker to see if the link is fine. Then you click the link. And then presumably if you're on a Windows PC, like Windows Defender is good, but you're talking about 2015. So I'm guessing this is old Windows 10 maybe, because the recent ones, as I understand, like Windows 11, the latest Defenders, like, updates, they're pretty solid. And that's on top of the fact that if you have an installed antivirus, something like this happening to you is, I won't say not possible. It's a lot harder, to be fair.
The others clicked. That single click was enough. Malware
and
installed itself quietly in the background. No pop-ups, no warnings. The infection was silent, and from that moment on, the hackers had access. Their objective was clear: gain administrator rights. With those, they'd have the digital equivalent of master keys, access to everything, the power to change anything. And they got what they came for. They broke into areas of the system that should have been completely off limits. That's how they were able to push deeper and deeper until they'd essentially taken over the Bundestag's IT infrastructure.
Yeah.
It was a sophisticated operation, carefully planned and executed. The attackers
and the
moved
thing is,
lot.
like, typically for like really complicated, like, hacking initiatives, black hat ones, individual enterprises, I think they can get away with like, I think small level, like not so like sophisticated levels of attack, but you need government states to like, really put their like full like effort in to have like these levels of sophisticated hacking. Like this has got to be like government support for sure, 100%.
Laterally, jumping from computer to computer, scanning for valuable information, documents, emails, anything of use. Eventually, they reached two machines inside a parliamentary office of the Conservatives. And not just any office, Angela Merkel's, the German chancellor at the time.
Oh.
The Bundestag hack is one of the most serious cyber attacks in German
The
history.
thing is, I have not even heard about this until the video today. If it's this big, I presume you'd make this like global news. The fact it's not heard of is concerning. Huh.
It will set off a large-scale international investigation and eventually arrest warrants that had once seemed unimaginable. And yet, inside the Bundestag itself, the attack goes unnoticed for quite some time. Back to that Friday afternoon call with 117. Claudia is frustrated with how unhelpful the first hotline call had been. So she does what most people do in that situation.
Ignores it?
She calls again.
You know what? Fair play to her. Fair play. At least you're persistent. You gotta basically say, hey, I got a problem with this system. Fix it. I respect that.
Hoping the next person might actually understand what's going on. But even the second person on the line doesn't take her seriously. Angry and fed up, Claudia decides to just shut down her PC and go home. It is Friday after all, and the weekend has already begun. On Monday morning, an IT staffer remotely logs into Claudia's machine and reinstalls Word, which, of course, doesn't fix anything. By the afternoon, someone finally comes in person, but even they don't catch that there's a Trojan on Claudia's PC. By this point, the hackers have already been inside the system for at least 2
I mean,
weeks.
to be fair, I think for my understanding of most Trojans are, like, you would notice, like, there's a virus infection on your system by two ways. One is your system is screaming at you, by the way, hey, you have something that's using a lot of resources, hogging RAM, hogging processing power, fix it. And then you go and check your window, your Explorer, and you're like, oh, wait, there is something wrong with it. And you wipe it and you reinstall Windows. That's probably how you fix it. But at the same time, having something so subtle infect you, not know something's going on, but as it slowly scans your systems and files, is terrifying.
And still, almost no one realizes that this might actually be a cyber attack. Meanwhile, over in the UK, a cybersecurity firm has been keeping an eye on a suspicious foreign server, one that had been used for previous cyber attacks. Suddenly, that server establishes a connection to machines inside the Bundestag network. The firm alerts the Federal Office for the Protection of the Constitution. A day later, the warning reaches both the Bundestag's Classified Information Office and the Federal Office for Information Security, BSI, in Bonn. Thanks to German bureaucracy doing what German bureaucracy does, the warning takes a brisk 3 days to actually land.
Oh my... that is insane. And someone still, I'm sorry, I get it. Like it's like a high stakes situation. Lives are on the line, but you have to still laugh at the fact that, hey, that is insane. For the fact it takes 3 days for someone to take a phone, call up someone in like the actual government office and say, by the way, check your systems, like reinstall everything. It's just like, come on, guys.
Finally, someone realizes what's happening. The BSI sends a special team to Berlin. Their job? Comb through the logs. Those are automatic records on computers that track what happened, when, and how. Which programs were opened, what was clicked, what ran in the background. All of it. The BSI team needs to figure out 3 things. Is this a major attack? Yes. What are the hackers after?
Info.
Probably stealing data. And are they still inside?
Yes.
Very much so.
Uh-oh.
The team doesn't hesitate. They shut down the entire network. From the outside, it looks like someone just ripped the plug out of the wall. Claudia watches her computer power off like it has a mind of its own, like it's haunted. She half expects the lights to flicker next. That same day, Der Spiegel broke the story, the first media outlet to report on the cyber attack. Politicians found out from the news, not from internal channels. From that moment on, chaos took over. Lawmakers were furious. No one could work properly. No emails, no access to documents, no reports. And this isn't a movie. You don't just kick the hackers out and move on. The network is giant, messy, and hard to control.
Oh, no, I can imagine. If anything in the private sector is to go by, you have systems that are already connected once, and the sheer effort of reconnecting those systems into the same configuration as before is a nightmare. So I can imagine how long, first of all, shutting down the system would have taken, but bringing it back up to speed like it was before must have taken at least weeks, if not a month.
The response team had to fight their way through it, trying to stop any further data theft and wrest back control. It took weeks to clean the system.
No shit.
During that time, MPs and their staff could only use certain parts of the network.
Things are just shut down.
No one knew if the hackers were still reading their emails. Important notes were suddenly written down by hand again.
And I think this is one of those things, right? And maybe I'm old school for saying this. I think digital technology is insane, especially when you send an email to someone, you text someone some information or data. But I think if it's really sensitive information, usually we go along the lines of, there's a saying, the paranoid only survive. And the reason why I think so is because, well, if you have information that you think is extremely sensitive, you write it down. Because quite frankly, there's nothing more secure than your eyes and the pen and paper in front of you. And sure, a surveillance camera can probably pick you up, or a webcam can probably pick you up. But more likely than not, it's much easier for people to get access to your system and read what you're doing rather than writing it down. Which... there's a reason why in the old days you write it down on a piece of paper, fold it, and put it in your pocket. No one else is getting to that unless they're on you physically. You feel me?
Just to stay safe.
And I get it. Me saying that, I understand it, but in the modern world, it's just maybe not possible anymore. Just how fast information has to travel, sure.
The Bundestag's IT security was clearly overwhelmed. It faced intense criticism in the months after. When the dust finally settles, the investigation into the perpetrators begins, and the trail points to Russia right from the start.
I mean, sure, I get it. I apologize for pausing as well, Brett. It's one of those things where if you come with a problem, you better come with the solution as well. And I'm in my mind, there's only two solutions to something like this. Either because if you have a huge interconnected network, one failure in one part of the network will propagate through the network. There's no way around it. So either you try splitting or configuring the system so that they stand independently. So let's say a failure at one part of the network doesn't propagate everywhere. But if that's not possible, then you need to have some form of scanning or filtering system that's constantly keeping a check on the health of these devices remotely. So when it detects something is off, shuts down the system and flags it so that there's a team that properly goes sent out and reviews it. It's the best way, I guess. How do you stop this?
On Claudia Heid's computer, investigators find malware called X-Tunnel.
Okay.
X-Tunnel functions like a real tunnel, a direct continuous link that allows attackers to access the network whenever they want. Inside the code, analysts uncover connections to a server believed to be used by a group known as APT-28. APT stands for Advanced Persistent Threat. It's a label used...
To be fair, that's a cool name.
...used for hacker groups that are not only highly skilled, but also extremely patient. The kind of intruders who don't just strike and vanish.
Yeah, they wait.
But stay deeply embedded, sometimes for
as long as they can.
By all accounts, APT-28 is a Russian group, and it also goes by another name, Fancy Bear.
Oh, okay.
Fancy Bear operates under the GRU, Russia's military intelligence service. The group is notorious. This is where they work, in what's known as the Aquarium in Moscow. No one knows who they really are.
They're called Fancy Bears, and they work out of the aquarium. It's kind of a... I guess?
No faces, not even how many of them exist.
Okay.
But one thing is clear. They do whatever it takes. They'll stop at nothing, not even the computer of the sitting German chancellor. Ironically, it's there, in that highly sensitive office, where one of the hackers slips up. They manage to break into a computer in Angela Merkel's outer office, her personal machine, her inbox. It's exactly what they were after.
Okay.
To extract the emails, one of the hackers writes a custom program. The tool is designed to copy your Outlook inbox and send that copy to a server they control.
Okay.
The program is called vsc.exe.
What's the problem?
But there's a problem. While coding, the hackers make a mistake. To locate and extract the files, vsc.exe needs to follow a specific file path, and that path includes the words Abgeordnetenbüro. But the program doesn't recognize the German U. Instead, the character shows up as a garbled symbol, a question mark followed by RO, so the program can't find the folder. For a moment, the entire operation stumbles over the quirks of the German language.
Okay.
Realizing the attack might be exposed at any moment, the hackers panic a little. Under pressure, they decide to rewrite the code. This time, they tell the program, expect German, expect that U. Then they try again. And this time, it works. The tool successfully copies the inbox and sends it out. It's not Merkel's correspondence from the Chancellery, but still a huge win for the attackers.
Damn.
But the hackers messed up. Maybe from the rush, maybe out of nervousness. In the code of the program, investigators later discover a critical detail. The hacker forgot to delete the name of the computer he was working on. The path reads C users Scaramouche.
Okay, come on. There's no way. Okay, hold on. I apologize, right? There's no way, like in TV shows, you have like these subliminal names you get to put in. Like, for example, in Person of Interest, it's Root, for example. But then Scaramouche, really? Really? I mean, they are fancy, man.
Scaramouche is a clown-like character from Italian theater.
Okay.
People might also recognize the name from Bohemian Rhapsody.
Scaramouche, Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
That's the hacker's alias, his handle.
Scaramouche.
In secret, Scaramouche and his team become high-priority targets.
To be fair, that sounds a badass. Like, I get it. It's a crime. I get it. But still a badass name, though. I'm being honest.
The Federal Public Prosecutor's Office opens an investigation on suspicion of espionage.
Yeah.
Angela Merkel later calls it an act of hybrid warfare. But publicly, the German government keeps quiet at first. No accusations, no pointing fingers. In total, around 16 gigabytes of data is believed to have been stolen from the Bundestag network, though no one knows for sure.
What exactly?
16 gigabytes doesn't sound like much, right?
No, brother, no. 16 gigabytes is a lot of emails. That is a lot of Outlook files that just flew out, if it was just Outlook files.
Just an old USB stick. But in context, it's a lot. Especially if we're talking only emails.
Right, it's email and texts, because they just need to read and understand documents. They don't even have to copy documents, they just need to see it.
16 gigabytes contains a staggering amount of information. Yep. Is that really the end of the world, though? A little espionage here and there, business as usual. Sure, they stole some files, but what could they really do with that? Then came the US presidential election in 2016. Putin's bears shows what they're really capable of.
The Clinton campaign won't confirm or deny the veracity of any of the emails posted by WikiLeaks.
What lines they're willing to cross, and just how much chaos a few gigabytes can unleash.
Yeah?
Chapter 2. The Orange.
Okay, there's no way they call it the Orange and then they go into the Trump story. I am dead. That is... Wow, okay.
In mid-2015, Donald Trump announces his candidacy. At first, no one really takes him seriously. But because he's so different, so unfiltered, saying things no one else would dare, the media can't stop talking about him.
And Mexico will pay for the wall.
I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
One outrageous statement after
There's no way he said that. There's no... Really?
The next dominates the headlines.
ISIS is honoring President Obama.
In no way. I remind myself I'm not a political channel.
He is the founder of ISIS. He's the founder of ISIS.
There's public outrage, disbelief, and widespread support for him.
I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
By early 2016, Trump is no longer the oddball outsider. He's now the Republican frontrunner, going head-to-head with Democrat Hillary Clinton. Half a world away, in the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin is watching closely. He doesn't like Hillary Clinton, not one bit. The two have history. Back in 2011, Clinton was the US Secretary of State when Russia held national elections. She publicly questioned whether the vote had been rigged, and massive protests followed across the country. Putin accused the US of stirring up those demonstrations. He never forgave her for that. Politically, she had been one of his toughest opponents for years. Later, the European Court of Human Rights confirmed that the 2011 Russian election was in fact manipulated. Putin clearly is rooting for the other guy, the loud billionaire. Trump, for his part, has repeatedly praised Putin in the past. He sees Putin as a strong leader, someone he thinks he could get along with as president. So Putin consults with his 3 intelligence agencies and makes a call. March 19, 2016, an email lands in the inbox of John Podesta, Clinton's campaign manager. The message looks like a standard Google security alert, something about suspicious activity and a prompt to reset the password. But Podesta double-checks with an IT staffer at the DNC to be sure. Unfortunately, the staffer replies that the email is legit.
I get to say it. Fire him. Whoever it is, fire him or her. Whoever is your IT staff, straight to jail. There's no way.
When he actually meant the opposite.
You could just add the word not, right? Just say, you can just write the word no, or you could write the word, the mail is not legitimate. You don't have to use the word illegitimate and risk the goddamn copyright removing the ill because you added an extra ill for no reason.
Just one typo with massive consequences.
That is not a typo. Okay, maybe it is a typo. I apologize. But let's be real. Come on.
Podesta assumes the message is safe, clicks the link, and enters his login on a fake site. That's it. The hackers are in. They now have access to internal communications, emails, and nearly everything tied to the campaign. They're part of Fancy Bear, the same group tied to the Bundestag hack. They steal 50,000 of Podesta's emails. The tactic is known as phishing, casting bait and waiting for a bite. Spear phishing more specifically, as it's tailored to a specific person. With the same approach, Fancy Bear targets 300 more people inside Clinton's campaign. No one knows how many fell for it. In early April, they go after another key target, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, DCCC, a central player in the Democratic election machine. Using more convincingly real-looking emails, they managed to steal the credentials of at least one DCCC employee. And just like that, they're in again. Once inside, Fancy Bear uses two main types of malware, X-Agent and X-Tunnel. The latter is the same tool used in the attack on Claudia Heid's computer in Berlin. While digging through the DCCC, the hackers find something even more valuable. Credentials that let them slip into the Democratic National Committee, DNC, the heart of the party. There, they uncover detailed documents on campaign strategy, including a file on Trump full of potentially damaging information. In early May, the intrusion is finally detected. The DCCC and the DNC hire a cybersecurity firm to clean house, a process that will stretch all the way into October. But the Democrats should have discovered the hackers much sooner.
That is insane. I'm not gonna lie, the animation is just horrific when you think about it, like in a good way, because it's like, bro, they caught it and the hack is being purged from the
DCCC
network.
and the DNC
and it's
hire a
still
cybersecurity
collecting
firm
whatever
to
it
clean
can
house,
as it's going down.
a process that will stretch all the way into October. But the Democrats should have discovered the hackers much sooner.
Okay.
In a small, unremarkable office in Moscow, another set of hackers is quietly at work. This group is known as Cozy Bear, most likely working under the SVR, Russia's foreign intelligence service.
Okay. What's up with the bears? What is going on? What really? We have Fancy Bear and then there's Cozy Bear? Like, okay.
They've been inside the Democrats' network since June 2015, far longer than Fancy Bear. As strange as it sounds, Cozy and Fancy Bear probably weren't even aware of each other.
Interesting.
They had different bosses, didn't talk, didn't collaborate. Cozy Bear is known for being quiet and methodical, targeting all kinds of institutions without leaving much of a trace. But this time, someone's watching them. In 2014, Dutch intelligence pulled off an incredible hack. They gained access to surveillance cameras in the very building where Cozy Bear operates. They're literally watching the hackers at work. That's how they realize Cozy Bear is crawling through the DNC's systems. So the AIVD warns the American counterparts early on. That warning eventually reaches the FBI. By September 2015, an agent in Washington calls the DNC to let them know Russian hackers are inside their systems.
Thankfully, someone actually did pick up the phone and call instead of waiting 3 days to send that email across. Jeez.
But the warning goes nowhere.
Okay. Oh, God. Famous last words. I apologize. Famous last words.
The call lands with lower-level IT staff and is more or less ignored. Senior leadership at the DNC later claimed they didn't even know about it at the time. The hackers could have been discovered much earlier. If anyone had looked more closely at Cozy Bear, they likely would have seen Fancy Bear too.
A long time back, yeah.
And if that had happened, the summer of 2016 might have unfolded quite differently. But it didn't.
They didn't catch it.
Back to spring 2016, Fancy Bear launches a website, dcleaks.com.
Of course they did. Of course.
Starting in June, they begin dropping bombshell after bombshell. They invent a fake identity, Guccifer 2.0, a supposed Romanian lone wolf behind all the leaks.
Okay.
Guccifer gets a blog, reaches out to journalists, and offers up stolen files. The DNC hack dominates the headlines. It becomes breaking news on TV. Suddenly, internal dirt from within the Democratic Party, rumors, backroom deals, tensions is out in the open. It's a major blow to Hillary Clinton's campaign. The emails appear to show the DNC clearly favoring Clinton over Bernie Sanders, even though they were supposed to stay neutral. There's content about what she earned for Wall Street speeches, and even an alleged anti-Catholic bias. Trump jumps on the scandal. At a rally, he famously says,
Russia, if you're listening,
I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
At that point, Clinton is already under pressure over her use of a private email server while serving as Secretary of State.
Ooh.
The FBI confirms she also deleted private emails from that account, which makes people believe that she's hiding something. Trump seizes the moment, tying that controversy to the flood of new leaks. That very same day, Fancy Bear sends 76 spear phishing emails to Clinton's staff. The impact of the leaks on Clinton's campaign is huge. Maybe not the deciding factor, but they definitely give Trump a boost, over and over again. What started as chaos turned into something more focused, a clear attempt to help Donald Trump. Just over a month before Election Day, the hackers hand over John Podesta's emails to WikiLeaks.
Ooh.
And then, week after week, those emails are released strategically, some more dramatic than others, but all grabbing headlines. The constant drip of leaked material creates a lasting impression. Something shady is going on inside the Democratic Party. Clinton loses momentum. She's forced to shift her message and constantly defend herself, in the press and directly against Trump in public debates. The leaks are part of something bigger. Fancy Bear is supported by a digital army of trolls. For example, operating out of this building.
To be fair, the Russian bots are infamous, to be fair. I mean, it's kind of like the statistic that, I think, what was it? About half the people online are real and half the people are just bots, is how I see it on like the general internet. I would not be surprised if the number goes close to like 80-20 or 90-10 bots to human ratio within the decade, like 2030s. Would not be surprised. Dead internet theory may not be a dead theory after all. It's a perfectly live and well-thriving theory. Yep.
Building in St. Petersburg. They flood social media with manipulated content and polarizing posts. Some even succeed in organizing real-life protests across multiple U.S. cities. Hillary Clinton loses. Donald Trump becomes president. It's nearly impossible to measure how much influence the hacks and disinformation had, whether they tipped the scales. But many experts like Kathleen Hall-Jamieson agree they had an impact. Russia, to some extent, successfully interfered with the 2016 U.S. election. It's widely seen as the most effective hack and leak operation ever pulled off. Steal data, release it strategically, and fan the flames of chaos. The idea that states spy on each other isn't new. But taking that intelligence and throwing it into the public to deliberately sway an election, that's something else entirely. If hackers can get their hands on internal data, release it at the perfect moment, and shape public opinion, what does that mean for the future of democracy? If a foreign power can mess with the core of another country's democratic process, that's not just hacking, that's destabilization. And it's part of a broader pattern made to erode public trust in democratic institutions. Democracies are at a disadvantage in this fight. A dictatorship can flood the internet with state media, bots, fake accounts, leak operations, and watches the public sphere in open society fragments and turns against itself. Meanwhile, inside the authoritarian regime, nothing wobbles. Dissent is crushed quickly and publicly. The United States only realizes what just happened after the elections have already passed. The CIA, FBI, and NSA compile their findings in a highly classified report. In early 2017, a redacted version is released to the public.
Of course it's redacted,
One
sure.
sentence stands out as especially alarming. We assess that Moscow will apply lessons learned from its campaign aimed at the US presidential election to future influence efforts worldwide. The sheer aggression and scale of these cyber operations, especially in the US, opens many people's eyes. They realize this isn't just spying, it's sabotage.
It very much is. It's basically a way to undermine the democratic process by not only... You have to understand, there is the component of truth and lies, but the blackest of truths, or like the darkest of truths, are half-truths. Basically, they could be partially true, but once you have a half-truth, you could inject like sinister lies to kind of pack and form like the most like chaotic version of that, whatever it is that you're creating, flood it into the public sphere and see what happens. You'll just be fanning chaos. And if you can get a large enough people to kind of either not only believe, but also kind of align yourself or align themselves with the idea that you're putting out there, then it's not that hard to either radicalize them, or it's not going to be as difficult to basically put that together and then just get momentum in the direction you want something to go. And once you have like critical mass, like enough people to pull that off, that there is no changing that trajectory. You are on that path and nothing is going to stop you, which is wild and terrifying. Yeah.
In Germany, alarm bells start ringing too. There's a federal election coming up in 2017. What does all of this mean for them? Then a new website pops up, BTleaks.com. BT, like Bundestag.
Really? You did the DC leaks. You didn't even have like the... we could come up with a different name, but let's just change DC to BT. Okay, sure. Original names there. Nice.
Just like DCleaks.com.
Yeah.
Suddenly, everyone is on edge. Variations like btleaks.org start appearing too. German authorities notice that someone is registering these sites, and panic starts to set in. Is the world about to see a repeat of the US playbook? In early May 2017, Angela Merkel travels to Russia for the first time since the Bundestag hack. She meets Putin at his summer residence in Sochi. There, she confronts him. Putin insists that Russia never interferes in the internal affairs of other nations. Merkel replies firmly, "I assume that German parties will handle their election campaigns among themselves." A clear warning, stay out. In the end, the 2017 German election isn't rocked by any major leaks. To this day, no one knows for sure what happened to the stolen 16 gigabytes from the Bundestag hack. There's never been a single public leak directly tied to that data. But then again, maybe there doesn't need to be. Maybe the information was used in some other way, quietly.
Which is the most dangerous version of that, which is not even putting it out there for anyone to use. Is just reading through it and then kind of having your playbook. And it's like, it's not even hypothetical, right? Like if you have like political decisions that are going to come up, maybe not now, but 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you can start positioning your investments in such a way that it's like, okay, we know they're going to approve this or not approve that. All right, let me put my money here and see what happens when people realize, and the public gets information about those decisions. Your market value on your investments just skyrockets. Illegal, of course, 100%. But if that information technically never existed, then is it really illegal? Is the question there. Fine, yeah, sure.
Tactically. Meanwhile, the hunt for Scaramouche continues. It'll be a while before his identity is finally confirmed.
If at all. It's terrifying. Terrifying. Oh, they actually got the name. Oh, wow. Okay.
Some of his colleagues aren't so lucky.
Chapter 3: The Cleaning Crew.
April 10th, 2018. A passenger plane from Moscow lands at Schiphol Airport in the Netherlands. Among the passengers, 4 Russian men. They look like typical business travelers. Alexei Minin and Oleg Sotnikov, both in their 40s, seem cheerful. Behind them walk 2 younger men, Yevgeny Sebryakov and Alexei Morenits. According to their passports, they're diplomats. A sharply dressed man from the Russian embassy meets them in arrivals and escorts them out of the airport. But they aren't here on official duty. They're part of a special unit, trained to carry out covert foreign operations.
The gall to have people or hackers like a very specific group fly into a different country and that is okay. Damn.
Minin and Sotnikov handle reconnaissance. Serebyakov and Morenits are the hackers. They rent a small car and drive to The Hague. They stop at an electronics store to buy a heavy-duty 12-volt battery and a charger, then check into a hotel. The next day, Minin heads to OPCW, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. That's an international body that investigates chemical weapons use and checks compliance with global conventions.
Okay.
The OPCW has just finalized its report on a high-profile case. Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found unconscious on a bench in Salisbury, UK, after being poisoned with Novichok, a nerve agent developed in Russia. The OPCW report confirms the British findings. Minin scouts the site. He photographs the OPCW building and the Marriott Hotel next door. 2 days later, April 13th, the group plans to strike. Time is short. What they don't realize is that they're being watched. From the moment they set foot into the country, they've been under surveillance by the Dutch Military Intelligence Service, MIVD. For the original version of this documentary, we interviewed a senior MIVD official. Due to rights...
Fern, that's insane. Okay, that is sick, actually. That's really cool.
For the original version of this documentary, we interviewed a senior MIVD official. Due to rights restrictions, we had to cut those segments from this adaptation. He couldn't help but grin when describing their transport. A rather small car for a bunch of guys, tightly cramped in there. The agency follows them closely, But how did they even know to look for them?
Right.
Apparently, the MIVD received intelligence that members of APT-28 would be flying in. Fancy Bear again. According to The Guardian, the original tip may have come from British intelligence. April 13th, the operation begins. The 4 men drive to the Marriott Hotel and park close to the OPCW building. The car's rear faces the compound. The trunk is packed with equipment. The battery and a voltage regulator power a computer, which is connected to a laptop in the front. Serebryakov and Morinets use it to execute the hack. The key component is a flat panel Wi-Fi antenna hidden under a jacket, connected via USB. It mimics the OPCW's real Wi-Fi network. Devices inside might auto-connect, believing it's legit. Once they connect, the hackers can steal credentials. With those, they could slip into the OPCW's internal network. The likely goal, steal or undermine the Skripal findings, or discredit the organization through a leak. But they don't get that far. Dutch authorities move in. 2 unmarked vehicles roll quietly onto the lot. Then, sudden action. Doors fly open. The 4 men are taken down. One tries to destroy his phone, kicking it repeatedly, but fails. Then comes the search. There's a plastic bag filled with trash from their hotel room, beer cans, receipts, a half-hearted attempt to cover their tracks. Also, 20,000 euros and $20,000 in crisp bills. Most incriminating of all, a taxi receipt in Morinents's bag, documenting a ride from the GRU barracks to the airport on the day of departure. The team's devices tell an even bigger story. One phone was activated just the day before their trip. Its first signal pinged a tower right next to the GRU headquarters. The laptops reveal a broader mission trail. Serebryakov had been in Lausanne in 2016, likely targeting the World Anti-Doping Agency.
Breaking news out of Lausanne, Switzerland, where Russia has been handed a 4-year ban by the World Anti-Doping Agency.
In December 2017, he was in Kuala Lumpur, where he reportedly tried to hack the Malaysian police, the agency then investigating the MH17 plane crash.
Okay, bro, that's actually kind of insane. So imagine this, bro. This guy has been in every major Russian controversial, place or situationship, and he's just like, you know what? Nah, we're hacking, change the interpretation, subvert actual investigative processes, and it just end up as being we ain't really the bad guys. It's the investigative agencies not telling the truth. It's crazy. This is.
Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 crash-landed in eastern Ukraine.
That flight was brought down by a Russian-made missile over eastern Ukraine. And the team wasn't planning to stop at the OPCW. They had train tickets from Utrecht to Bern, Switzerland, likely headed for the Spies laboratory, which was also analyzing Novichok. Sometimes hackers need to get physically close to their targets. Sending phishing emails isn't enough. You need to know what kind of networks are in place, what security measures are active, and sometimes even watch the people going in and out. German journalists have nicknamed them the cleaning crew because they show up after something major has gone wrong and try to clean up or spin the story. For the MIVD, this was a major win, and they decided to take it public. Usually they don't disclose their operations, but this time they had a press conference 5 months later. The 4 men were eventually released and sent back to Russia, likely for diplomatic reasons. Their mistakes seem amateurish. Why keep that taxi receipt? Well, these aren't mythical hooded figures. They're civil servants, hackers on a schedule, assigned tasks, bad coffee, strict rules. They just happen to work for an authoritarian regime and weaponize code. Russia, of course, denies everything. The men were supposedly just on a routine trip. Of course, nothing screams routine like a flat panel antenna in the trunk. This strange hotel parking lot escapade shows something important. Putin's bears can be stopped. Germany has fended them off. A conservative-linked NGO was targeted, but the attack failed. In France, Macron's 2017 campaign fended off a similar attack. And in the US, the response came loud and clear. In 2018, they decided to send a message. That February, the US Department of Justice indicts 13 Russian nationals and 3 Russian companies. They're accused of deliberately interfering with the American political system. Not long after, another sweeping indictment is released. This one focused specifically on Fancy Bear. The FBI outlines exactly how they traced the DNC hack back to individual Russian operatives. Multiple names are listed, all Russian citizens. According to the investigators, they work for Russian intelligence. The hackers remain safe in Russia, no arrests follow. But one thing is clear, Much of the world is now off limits to them.
Ooh.
And this isn't just about naming names. It's a clear line in the sand. There are boundaries, and these operatives cross them. One name stands out to German investigators. One of the men listed is believed to use the alias Scaramouche, the same alias linked to the VSC.exe program. His real name is Dmitry Badin. He's the man who broke into Angela Merkel's computer. Today, he's 32 years old. Investigators found out quite a lot about him. They have photos of him, young face, dark blonde hair, shoulder length now. He's from Kursk, married, reportedly has a daughter, lives in a town just south of Moscow. He listens to music while he works. Russian rock, techno. According to forensics...
I like it if they have all this information and they just have to basically put in there, oh, by the way, he listens to music while he's hacking, by the way, just to know. It's like really specific for some reason, but you know what? Fine, good to know the visualization of it.
He even streamed football matches while hacking.
Okay. Okay, guys, what we... You don't have to know his breathing patterns, where he is throughout the day, the heat patterns of where he's moving. It's like, okay, that might be a little bit too excessive, you feel me? But okay, sure.
Rock, techno. According to forensics, he even streamed football
Getting his Spotify playlist is crazy. I'm just going to let you guys know. That's crazy.
While hacking. He's a big fan of Cristiano Ronaldo, apparently. In many ways, he seems like an average guy, but he's a government hacker serving in a regime that targets Western democracies. In May 2020, the German federal public prosecutor files charges against Badin as well. After the first wave of indictments in 2018, Vladimir Putin sat down with NBC for an interview. There he was confronted with the allegations.
13 Russians and 3 Russian-owned companies have been indicted by a special prosecutor named Robert Mueller in the United States for interfering in our election. Why would you allow an attack like this on the United States?
Why have you decided the Russian authorities, myself included, gave anybody permission to do this?
If the 13 Russian nationals plus 3 Russian companies did in fact interfere in our elections, is that okay with you?
Wait.
I don't care. I couldn't care less.
Putin's bears were never captured. Their operations weren't dismantled. This isn't a story with a clean, satisfying ending.
It's still going.
Quite the opposite.
We got
Chapter 4.
Oh God.
The satellite.
Satellite deployment of malware is, oh no.
February 24th, 2022. A cold night in Moscow. The day has barely begun. A quiet man heads to work earlier than usual. He's riding the metro. At Polizhayska station, he gets off. From there, it's a 10-minute walk. He's a little on edge, lights a cigarette. He works for the GRU, in the aquarium. He's part of Unit 74455.
Just a number?
Better known abroad as Sandworm or Voodoo Bear.
Okay, Voodoo Bear.
At his desk, he pulls up a chair. Time to go to work. He and his colleagues have spent months preparing for this moment. Now it's just a few final clicks.
Go on.
Meanwhile, in Austin, Texas, it's still February 23rd. A senior executive at Viasat, a satellite internet provider, is just settling into his evening. Viasat's tech is known for being dependable, especially in remote areas. Suddenly, his devices start lighting up with automated warnings. They're coming from Ukraine. 2 of Viasat's ground stations are under attack, flooded with malicious data packets.
Ooh.
Internet from satellites doesn't actually come from space. It's routed through ground stations. If those crash, nothing gets through. And now they're overwhelmed. So overloaded, they can't deliver connectivity at all. But the Voodoo Bear operative in Moscow isn't finished yet. These kind of attacks can sometimes be fended off, but this one keeps escalating. Internet providers usually have remote access to their customers' modems. That's how they push software updates. That access, of course, should be highly secure. In Viasat's case, it wasn't. Voodoo Bear had already infiltrated months earlier. The hackers send a command to the modems, forcing them to download malicious code that wipes login credentials stored on the devices.
Ooh.
Without those credentials, the modems can't authenticate, can't connect, and go completely offline. The attack spreads fast. The senior manager stares at his screen in disbelief. 30,000 modems across Europe are now nothing but e-waste. In Germany, 5,800 wind turbines go offline. In a small village in Sweden, the internet vanishes. And in Ukraine, Viasat's biggest customer
goes dark.
Is the military.
Oof.
Suddenly, across army installations, there's tension. The communication infrastructure is being hit. Right as reports flood in from the borders, Russian troops and armored vehicles are pouring in. The invasion, long looming like fog, has begun. Ukraine is hit from 3 directions. Missile strikes, commands are shouted, and amid the chaos, a terrifying thought spreads. What if the comms go down? What if the command dashboards fail? Surveillance feeds cut to black. The Viasat attack was a highly effective cyber strike, perfectly timed with the invasion, but for Ukraine, it wasn't a new experience. Ukraine has been in Russia's cyber crosshairs for years, not just since the invasion in 2022, but dating back to 2014, after the annexation of Crimea. That year, Russia tried to hack Ukraine's elections. In 2015 and 2016, Voodoo Bear took down parts of the country's power grid, each time for hours. In 2022, they tried again. This time, they failed. Russia often tests tactics like election interference in Ukraine before deploying them elsewhere. That's why Ukraine is sometimes called Russia's cyber test battlefield. The war has now been raging for over 3 years, and all of Putin's bears are involved. They attack government systems and major companies. They spy, they leak. They fuel disinformation campaigns. But Ukraine, it seems, is defending itself formidably, not just on the ground, but also in cyberspace. And they're not alone. Today, the country is supported by several leading Western cybersecurity firms.
Epilogue. Trades.
It's just that I haven't said anything for most of this video in like the second half. Bro, all of this just seems incredible to think that this is what the world is capable of today. It's like, yeah, there is war, but at the same time, you have these incredible cyber defenses to make sure that, hey, even if the satellites go down, there's still ways of keeping communications alive, which is critical for chain of command, especially in the military. So you know what? Shout out 100%.
Putin's bears are still out there, as dangerous as ever.
Yep.
Hagen Tan River.
I love the transition in the voice.
Putin's bears are still out there, as dangerous as ever.
Hagen Tan River is one of the journalists.
What? Is that a sound of a bear as they're transitioning?
As dangerous as ever.
The sound design goes crazy in this video, I'll be honest.
Hagen Tan Riverda is one of the journalists we interviewed for this video. Not long ago, a colleague of his received a mysterious leak. A batch of internal documents from a Russian company called NTC Vulcan. It supplies Russian intelligence services and the military with cyber weapons of all kinds. And their internal documents are chilling. Among other things, Russia seems to have been mapping out what to do once a territory is conquered. How to bend it, break it, remake it. Beyond that, they're experimenting with control over foreign critical infrastructure. For example, they're testing if they can slow down trains. And if you can slow down a train, well,
you can
then
speed
you can
it up,
too. One thing is certain. We haven't heard the last of the bears. Not by a long shot.
Damn.
And in the years ahead, we'll have to stay alert. Learn to spot their traps, their tricks, their carefully laid bait. Because once they're inside, it rarely ends well.
This was an insane video. This is a really good video. Holy shit. But yeah, I mean, hey, if this isn't like this is the thing is, right, this is crazy to think. So wait, so how exactly do you prevent something like this from happening? Like, I get the context of the whole video that, you know, wait, by the way, the digital space is a constant war front. I'm like, yes, you're not wrong, but what can you do to protect yourself? Well, don't click on suspicious links, and use Linux, I guess. Is this, I'm not really sure at this point. Is this a call to use Linux because Windows isn't secure anymore? Or is it just do your best every day? You feel me? But regardless, yeah, that's about it. It's war in the digital space. You feel me? Cyber warfare 101. But yeah, that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. And I will catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. Peace. Take care. Nice.